The other thing a lot of people don't realize, though, is you can get rid of taxes in bankruptcy. If they're old enough, if you filed them within a certain time frame, you can actually discharge taxes. I mean, I've gotten rid of like $200,000 tax bills, $500,000 tax bills. Yeah.
What?
Just because, yeah.
Damn. I bet you they're
Yeah.
like super happy. They're all like, what do you want? You want to go to
yeah.
Disneyland? Wow.
They're very happy.
Hey, I'm Armando Leduc, producer, film actor, and owner of Leduc Entertainment. I've chosen a life off the beaten path and wanted to find others that are doing the same. Spaghetti on the Wall is a show based on all of the years that I've thrown spaghetti on the wall and nurtured what stuck. We will share fun stories, ideas, tips, tricks, and more. Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you're consuming this podcast. Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, another banger for you with Lorena Saedi from Atlanta. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Bankruptcy, people are suffering, and they need relief. This is where you come in.
It is where we come in. I've been doing this over 20 years now.
Wow.
And even during good economic times, bankruptcy can be a lifesaver for a lot of people.
And so what, is it like a reset button? It's just like, all right.
It really is. It is the whole purpose of the code, the bankruptcy code, is called a fresh start. And, it's very powerful. We even get to stop taxing authorities, which a lot of people like. And it lets people, get a fresh start and rebuild. And that's important.
What are the drawbacks of getting a bankruptcy?
So obviously your credit, you can't go through something like this and it not have some kind of effect credit-wise. However, one thing people get confused about with bankruptcy is, yes, if you file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, it'll be on your credit for 10 years. If you file a Chapter 13, it'll be on your credit for 7 years. However, in terms of rebuilding and getting loans again, even purchasing real estate, in 12 months, most folks' credit scores are already back to a good score. And most people can buy real estate after coming out of a bankruptcy after 24 months. So yes, it's on your credit, but at the end of the day, you can still rebuild pretty fast.
That's crazy. And so how do you guys get paid?
Yeah, so that's what that's a very common question I get. So Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 are structured very differently. Chapter 13 bankruptcies are much more labor intensive from our side. Most of our cases go for 5 years. It is a debt consolidation repayment plan, but it's under the protection of the federal court. So the way it works is the clients, we figure out what kind of a consolidation payment they have. They make their payment every month to the court, and we will get a portion of that to pay our fees. So we actually in Chapter 13 cases, we get compensated from the court as they make their payments. Chapter 7 cases are different in that they're not restructuring. They're literally just wiping everything out. And so they set up payment plans directly to us. And so we deal directly with them. But believe it or not, because people are like, oh, people probably, they stiff you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you always have that, of course, with any industry. Sure. But for the majority of my cases, my clients, they pay, especially something like this. I mean, you're going to have to call your attorney, at least a couple of times after the case. So we don't have any big problems about folks paying us on payment plans for Chapter 7.
That's awesome. So you guys are like, there's definite superheroes on your chests.
It is, it's funny. I did corporate law before I got into bankruptcy, and I didn't realize how fulfilling it would be to actually have clients that, we get flowers, hugs, cards. Just people are very, very appreciative.
Very grateful.
You don't always get that in the corporate world.
No, so, heck no.
It's nice. It's nice. And it's nice to be a lawyer and feel like you really are helping people.
That's awesome. So I wanted to ask you about the different consumer protections with Chapter 7 and Chapter 13.
Yeah, sure. So if you're doing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, most folks they're trying to stop a foreclosure, a repossession. Some folks, I get a lot of people that call me that have child support or alimony arrears, and they're getting ready to get a warrant, get getting ready to get arrested.
Oof.
But a Chapter 13 will actually allow us to stop any kind of a creditor action like that, and we can restructure it. And so it applies something called the automatic stay, which will hold off creditors as long as you're keeping up your end of the bargain, so to speak, in your Chapter 13.
Okay.
Chapter 7, you have the same automatic stay. However, a Chapter 7 isn't a repayment plan. So if you cannot get current on your home or your car or whatnot in a 7, you've got to let it go.
Oof. Yeah.
And sometimes that's the best.
It's a trade-off.
Sometimes you need to let that $70,000 car go.
Sometimes you got to let it go. I'll tell you what, I think I was talking, I had a podcast yesterday with a gentleman who, super wealthy, comes from a long line of family wealth. And he was telling me a number yesterday that was what, 97% of all third generation of like family wealth, like go broke.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is nuts. And it's like, people are holding on to this image that isn't serving them. They're overspending, and it's like, come on, guys, like what you don't need 8 vehicles.
Yeah. And you're trying to impress people you don't even like.
Why is that? What is the deal with that?
I don't know. And it is interesting. I call it my come to Jesus moment. Sometimes I have to have with folks, and they're just silly things like, oh, but I really like my timeshare. Timeshares are usually pretty dumb. Don't do that. You don't need that. Or their second house, or little Bobby, wanted a Porsche, and so they bought it for, like, just things like that. Yeah. And it's like, and you're filing bankruptcy because you can't pay your bills.
I'll tell you, I've got clients who are so overextended, and they make a lot of money, but they're so overextended that they can't, they're not loose enough to maneuver their business because they're so over on everything else. It's just like, man, you don't have any money to spend on your marketing because you're spending, $5,000-$6,000 a month on a home. Like, why?
Yes.
But why? I guess, I don't know. And they say that too, like, more money you make, the more money you spend, right?
Yeah, but there's always wants and needs. So
yeah,
I think being a bankruptcy attorney for this long, I see everything from the opposite side. Like when I drive by like one of the wealthier neighborhoods in town, I don't see wealth, I see debt. I'm like, yeah, that's a nice house. I know it's leveraged. I know this and I know that. Like, you just see things differently.
Let me ask you that. How has working in bankruptcy affected your spending habits?
So, I've always been, I think, a decent financial manager. However, once I started doing this, it really, I don't want to say it scared me, but it really did shake me to my core. Like, okay, nothing's guaranteed in life, your job, your health. And it really just takes one thing that can just knock everything else over. So in terms of savings, even in terms of like the house that I purchased, I've always tried to live way beneath my means, just because you just don't know what's going to happen. And that's not to say that I'm not a miser or anything like that, but it really just takes one thing. And what you just said, if you're completely leveraged, even if you're making a lot of money, that will throw everything off. And I don't ever want to be in that position. So yeah, practicing bankruptcy has definitely made me more attuned to that.
I am a spender. I will say that. I love spending money. My wife, on the other hand, is not. She's very frugal, very frugal. But I can see the value in the frugality. I also see and I'm not the kind of person that's like, all right, let's spend money on on the big ticket items. I'll splurge on the things that I want to splurge on, but understanding, that, hey, could be one thing that, like, you know, just come, you have all of these cards crashing down, and then what? And then I have to go call Lorena and file for a bankruptcy. Is that what happens though? Everybody just, the one thing happens and then they just get screwed.
I mean, top 3 reasons people file bankruptcy: divorce, medical issues, and job loss. And especially, I mean, healthcare today, I mean, you know, you could be covered and still, you know, still get a whopping medical bill that you can't pay. And I mean, you know, divorce speaks for itself, but those are the 3 biggies that we see.
Wow. That just like bury you.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's just, and you could be going along and you think everything's fine, and then boom. And that's why I don't joke about it, but one thing I always tell my associates is, you know, you're going to feel like you're a counselor. Like, I mean, because people need to tell you why they're there. And it makes me feel bad because a lot of people, you know, they're just beating themselves up, and they haven't, I always tell them, I'm not a criminal lawyer. You didn't kill anybody. You know, I mean, it's just debt. But a lot of people, I mean, they've really been suffering mentally and even physically over the debt. I've had clients come to me that had a heart attack, a stroke, just because they were just so overwhelmed. And you know, and a lot of people don't realize that bankruptcy can alleviate a lot of that. You know, they, oh, I know a guy and they said I can't do this or that. And so it makes me feel bad sometimes when I'm talking to folks and I realize how long they've been suffering, and they just really just needed to talk to somebody to find out what their options were. Yeah.
No, that's good. It is, man, because bankruptcy, like, it's like the scarlet letter, boom, like you're branded.
Exactly. And some people will start our call and they'll say, okay, so I know this, I know that, I know I can't do anything for 10 years. And they'll start laughing like, that's not true. And you know, I'll tell them, hey, go to the mortgage lender site and see what their requirements are after bankruptcy. Most of them will tell you 24 months you can buy a home after bankruptcy. So, you know, is it fun? No, of course not. I'm the last person anybody wants to talk to, but you know, I would say 99.9% of my clients all tell me at the end, they're like, I'm so glad I did this. I feel so much better. I feel like I just have a weight lifted off of me, and I can focus on the future. I can focus on making more money, rebuild, you know, I mean, I had one guy and I think he put it the best. He said, yeah, he says, just money. He goes, I'll go make more of it and I'll be okay. He said, I'm healthy. My kids are good. You know, he's like, in the scheme of things, I'll be okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I think that's a good attitude.
What do you tell people that, do you have people that come in that are like not ready for bankruptcy and you're like,
all the time. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'll meet with probably half of my clients and then I won't see them again for 6 months until they finally decide they want to pull the trigger. Yeah. Gotcha.
Can people bounce back without doing bankruptcy? I mean,
they can. And you know, I actually counsel a lot of folks not to file bankruptcy. Because, you know, my job is to give folks options. And I feel like, you know, yes, I practice bankruptcy. And of course, that will be a case that I don't have or whatnot. But I think the goodwill that you put out there with being honest with folks and giving them other options, in the end, it all comes back to you. I can't tell you how many referrals I get from people that didn't file bankruptcy. But they were like, you really helped me and you showed me something. And can you help this? You know, can you help my mom, my dad, whatnot? But yeah, there's a lot of times when bankruptcy doesn't make sense. And I'll, you know, once I talk to somebody, I'll say, okay, you know, do you think you can get all of this paid back in 2 years? If you buckle down, you think you can do this? And if they tell me yes, I'll say, well, you know, you probably shouldn't file. Just suck it up.
Just buckle down.
Knock it out. And
stop spending so much money.
And you know, especially
do you slap them? Do you slap them?
Yeah, well, now most of my calls are done by video, so I can't physically smack anybody.
I would just, man, I would just have the hardest time, like when people are just being dumb, and you're just like, you're being dumb right now. Like, God, why? You know, you don't get it, but then, you know.
Well, I do probably once a week have to say, well, we can't have our cake and eat it too. And so we're going to have to talk about things we can't keep.
Yep.
And if you want to keep them, you're going to pay more. So yeah, we have to phrase it a little bit differently.
Tell me how people are going through bankruptcy because of divorce. How does that work?
So a lot of times folks will come to us and the divorce is already done. And they've either the husband or the wife, it could be either party, it's just, you now only are on one income. There could be child support commitments, or there could be no child support. I will tell you, the majority of women that I file with children don't receive child support. They're supposed to, but they don't receive it. So, that of course, you've got your household to split, and now you have all, these extra expensive, but you don't have the income. So, most of the divorce cases that we see are usually somebody looking to do a Chapter 7, because it's just like, I'm done. They've wiped me out and I just need to get rid of it.
Wow. So you can get wiped out by your partner.
Oh yeah.
Because they're asking for what? For half?
Well, they litigate. Lawyers are expensive. Family law can get really ugly, and the more you fight, the more you pay. And some of my best friends are family law attorneys. They have a great purpose out there, but I always joke I would never touch family law with a 20-foot pole, because I for the most part, most of my clients, I can have a good conversation. It's emotional in one sense, but it's not like in family law where you have hurt feelings and you have people that they just want to punish, and there's just the logic goes out the window, and they're like, I don't care if I litigate myself, into bankruptcy. I just want to hurt that person.
Yeah. They're vindictive.
So yeah. And it happens. And I see it all the time. I see people and they're like, look, I don't have the money to fight. And the smartest, I will tell you, the smartest people that I see that are getting divorced they'll plan it. And so they'll say, okay, we're going to get divorced, but a lot of our debts are joint debts. We want to just go ahead and wipe all that we can out, so that when we each go our separate ways, we can get a fresh start. And I think that that's a great way to do it.
That's cool.
So you do see people that are putting aside whatever drama or differences they have, and they're like, let's strategically plan this out. And that's smart. I see these huge legal bills when I'm going through bankruptcy cases, and they're just fighting over, they fight over dogs.
Right.
They fight over holidays, and it's like, the bills add up.
Does the tax code change with these bankruptcy laws yearly or no?
Well, one of the benefits of, if you discharge your debt through a bankruptcy, you're not going to get a 1099 for forgiveness of debt, which a lot of people ask me, like, am I going to have to pay taxes on all this debt I got rid of? No. If you do like a debt settlement, not using the bankruptcy code, then you will pay taxes on that as forgiven income. So, in that regards, it'll cause a change. The other thing a lot of people don't realize, though, is you can get rid of taxes in bankruptcy. If they're old enough, if you file them within a certain time frame, you can actually discharge taxes. I've gotten rid of like $200,000 tax bills, $500,000 tax bills. Yeah.
What?
Because, yeah.
Damn. I bet you they're like super happy. They're all like, what do you want? You want to go to Disneyland? Wow.
They're very happy. Yeah. So, if your taxes are old enough, you can get rid of taxes in bankruptcy. And a lot of people, again, they just think, oh, taxes, you can't get rid of it. No, you can. You can. So it just, that's why it's important to, meet with somebody that this is what they do, and they can tell you. Oh, and the other thing I will say is, even though bankruptcy is federal law, it's different literally in each district that it's practiced in. So there are our local rules in North Georgia are different than the local rules in Middle Georgia, and they're different than our local rules in Southern Georgia. So
where at in North Georgia?
In the Northern District. So
gotcha.
that would be, I mean, yeah. So that's like, it's Atlanta all the way up to Rome. It's massive. But then we have Middle District, Southern District. And so, yes, there's a component of bankruptcy law that is state-based in terms of our exemptions. But then even on a local level, we have different rules and different ways that we do things. So, people will Google, which I mean, I do that too. I'm not, I'm Miss Google Health. I do that anytime I'm going to go to the doctor. Mm-hmm. But you got to take that with a grain of salt because it's literally different everywhere it's practiced.
Yeah, that makes sense. So tell me about the current economic problems and sort of the rise in filings that you're seeing right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, COVID did a number, the whole economy shutting down, whatnot, did a number on a lot of people, but there were all of these relief options. So you had, there was forbearances. So you weren't seeing foreclosures. You were seeing car companies, give, these really long grace periods, and even like on the rental situation, people were having their rents reduced or whatnot. Well, now that's all pretty much gone away. And, we're coming back into, normality, and you have what we're seeing is all these backlog cases that were just out there waiting. Most people didn't resolve their debts, and now they're coming back, and now creditors, they're like, hey, I want to get paid. So we're seeing a lot of lawsuits, seeing a ton of evictions, and the repossessions. That's really where we're seeing it. And for me, I mean, I've been doing this over 20 years. So, I mean, I see when it's good, when it's bad. When you start to see the repossessions and the evictions, I mean, those are really basic things. You got to have a place to live, and you have to have transportation. At least you do here in Atlanta.
Yeah, no, for sure. The South, for sure.
Transportation is not great. Yeah. So when you start to see that people are having trouble paying these and they're losing them, you're seeing that there's something really bad, I think, on the horizon. And in 2008, 2009, it was the foreclosure mess, but it's coming. And I mean, I can just say, from my point of view, I mean, we're getting so busy, so busy. And, I mean, this is what I do, whatnot, but it is a little disturbing to see like everything that's going on, and creditors are definitely, I mean, they want to get paid, but they're being very aggressive.
Huh. And so you help with just, getting bankruptcy happening, and then they have to stop.
Yes.
Can you help with, like, I guess, settlements too? Do you help with that?
When I first started, I would help with like larger ones. So if it was like something over like $200,000, we would get involved. But most of the time, people, it's like $3,000 or $5,000, and that's not what we do. But it's funny, and I will kind of back up and tell you this: it is hard for consumers to find an attorney that can help them with the settlement, because what we charge in fees, it kind of defeats the whole purpose of what they're trying to settle, especially when you're talking about, okay, I'm trying to settle something for $1,000 or $3,000, and we can't promise you, that, we can't guarantee you, you'll get the result you want. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I started doing, and I'm working on right now, it's my big project right now, is I have started developing consumer online courses and products to help consumers basically do it themselves. But providing them with like the insights and, what we use and how we do it, so that they can at least get a little bit of training, they can get their own training. And if they want to go out and retain an attorney wherever they are, great, but at least they know how to do it. And it's frustrating. I mean, I get a lot of people who really, it breaks my heart. And you see like there is a need, and there's like this gap of, it doesn't really make sense to hire an attorney, but you still need an attorney because things can get very complicated and you don't know the rules.
Yeah.
So that's been like my greatest, that's my thing that I'm doing now, my project, which I hope will, this summer I'll be launching, but there's definitely a need.
How do people find you?
Pretty much everyone now is either just a direct referral or through online. YouTube is my baby. I love YouTube. I have a channel, and yes, it's bankruptcy law. So not, I guess the most exciting channel, but however, if you need to file bankruptcy, I get a lot of folks coming on. I get probably 80% of my clients that sign up, they find me on YouTube, or they've seen, one of my YouTube, shows or whatnot. And they're like, oh, and then I watch this and I watch that. I mean, it's wonderful. I absolutely, love it. I love that medium. And
it's so funny when people don't understand the power of like social media, because I'm constantly like, oh man, you guys could be blowing up.
Yeah. And so I'm actually, I'm actually an introverted person, really. And like having to go out and physically like network all the time, like we did in the old days or whatnot, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm married, I have kids, like I'm running around like a monkey most days. But when I can do my channel, when I can do social media, it's me. And I think, for a lot of my clients, they love it because it's also very personal. They see the person on the channel, and then I'm the person on the video call with them.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you're that YouTube lady.
Yeah.
But it's great. I absolutely love social media. And I know there's pros and cons and arguments for and against it. Especially attorneys. I have attorney friends that they just refuse.
Yeah. They're missing out. They're missing out. I always tell them, I'm like, man, guys, you guys are just missing out, because everybody's there, right? Like, oh man, the amount of business that we get from social media is crazy. So, how do you deal with, you're married and have kids. How are you dealing with like balancing act, the juggle?
Yeah. So I think balance is a myth. I think balance is a total myth.
I agree with you.
I think you can at one time I can be doing two things pretty good. And then there's other couple things that maybe I'm not working out like I should, or I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. So, I mean, I think balance is a myth. I think you're doing well sometimes in one area and then sometimes not. I'm very lucky. I have an awesome husband who is, he is a partner in every sense of the word. We work together. So we work together, we work on a lot of projects together. But he's, that's huge. So
that's great.
I have a team of people, that help me. And that's definitely important, because otherwise I would lose my mind.
It's crazy, right? How long have you been married?
17 years.
Wow.
I know,
Congrats.
Right? Like a world record.
That's a long time. I'm it'll be 7 years for me this year. But it goes fast.
It does. Well, like anything, when you're having fun, it goes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you're not having fun, it's really
very, very slow. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. But it's, we all make our choices, right? And and I think having a supportive partner or spouse, that can make or break you.
I agree with you. Do billboards work for your industry?
Personally, I don't do billboards. And every attorney marketing person, they always think we're like PI guys. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, you want it? And I was like, no, I don't do billboards. And I honestly, I don't, in my industry, I don't think that it's really, I think the ROI isn't really worth it.
What about radio?
Depends. In the past, we did some radio, but it's still expensive. And again, I'm going to fall back to anything online. I'm game. I love it. But even like TV and radio, to me, I like podcasts, but I watch all my podcasts online. So I just personally, I don't do them. I've tried them, and I didn't really see a great ROI on either one of those.
How about direct mail? Used
to, and I actually still do direct mail on a couple of topics. And I think it really depends on, what legal industry you're in. But we have scaled it down, and I see it going the way of Yellow Pages, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah. So we still do a little, but it's very, very focused, and just we've been shifting our marketing budget. Pretty much everything's going online, as opposed to, I guess you'd call it the old school attorney marketing.
Yeah.
methods.
Ethan, do you know what the yellow pages are? You do? That's awesome. I remember.
It was an assignment to like learn how to read it.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. All right, just making sure. I didn't know. I gotta ask the young guys in the office what if they still know these different things, the yellow pages. I remember I had a swing Latin and ballroom studio when I was 21, and we would put ads out, in the yellow pages. And it was like, man, that was the thing. And
That
then
was
all
the
of a sudden,
thing,
it was just
right.
like gone.
Yeah. But I mean,
Gone.
nothing stays the same, and you just gotta go where your client. For me, like also your clients. I'm also on Instagram. I'm not a big fan of Facebook.
I will tell you this. So Facebook Reels is where TikTok was a year ago.
Right. But the issue for us for advertising on Facebook is they have so many restrictions. Like trying to do even an ad on Facebook, it's like for bankruptcy, because we're a sensitive topic, it was so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I mean, and yes, I can put a picture of myself. I'm a bankruptcy attorney, blah, blah, blah.
No. I'm talking about strictly organic, right? Like vertical videos, like TikTok videos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, the reels, and
Yeah.
I haven't done it. I haven't gone there yet.
What they're doing right now, and I just got back from social media marketing world in San Diego. What's happening is because Facebook is wanting more people to use the reels, they're handing out views like it's cookies. So like right now, I would say for the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a lot more engagement on Facebook Reels than you will even on TikTok or Instagram. So just some FYI for you, in case you're doing some organic stuff. Yeah, it's really, really good. But yeah, bankruptcy is such a taboo word, right? It's like, understanding that you have options, understanding that it's not the scarlet letter, understanding that it's not a death sentence, I think is something that people really need to know. So I'm glad you came on, because you're my first bankruptcy attorney that I've interviewed. So yeah, it's good to know that there's options out there, and knowledge is power, right? Like, so options, gotta know what you can do,
what you can and can't do. Yeah.
And you're you seem to be on top of it. Very very cool person, and easy to talk to. So I would I'd recommend Lorena. And tell us where we can find you. What's your website? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So my website is saedilawgroup.com. And if you go into YouTube and just type in Saedi Law, I'm the only one out there with that funny name. You'll at least law firm wise, you'll see me come up. But yeah, find me online, and our consultations are free. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to do the consult with me.
Is your YouTube your name?
It is. It's Saedi Law Group.
Cool. Awesome. Well, cool. Lorena, thank you so much for coming on. Looking forward to seeing, just kind of looking around your social media and checking out some of your videos. And yeah, if we know anybody, we'll send them your way.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. And that was our show, ladies and gentlemen. Spaghetti on the Wall, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment. For all of your digital marketing needs, we got you. And you can watch Spaghetti on the Wall on YouTube, any social media, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you can find a podcast. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye.